The Gettysburg Address, 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Now let me explain the Gettysburg Address in simple terms. Abraham Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address during the American Civil War on November 19th, 1863. At the dedication of a cemetery for soldiers who died at the Battle of Gettysburg. Let's break it down so it's easier to understand. A score is 20 years, so 77 years ago means 87 years ago. Lincoln was talking about 1776, when the United States was founded. He reminds everyone that the country was created with the idea of freedom and that everyone is equal. The country was in the middle of the Civil War, a huge and terrible fight between the northern and southern states. Lincoln says this war is a test to see if a country based on freedom and equality can survive. They were at the battlefield of Gettysburg, where many soldiers had died. Lincoln explains that they are there to honor the soldiers who died by dedicating a cemetery in their memory. Lincoln explains that the soldiers who fought and died on the battlefield have already made it sacred. There's nothing anyone can do or say that's more meaningful than their sacrifice. He says that people might not remember his speech, but they will always remember the bravery and sacrifice of the soldiers. Lincoln urges the people who are still alive to continue the work of those who died, which is to fight for freedom and equality.